Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And it's certainly been an interesting week in the market in EVE Online with the launch of the skill extractors and skill injectors. So we'll see what kind of an impact we've seen here. But what I also found interesting is that CCP came out with several more dev blogs related to the expansion, and the biggest item there, I think, is that they decided to drop these special fuel blocks for citadels. So every racial fuel block is going to be able to be used in citadels, and that's actually a major headache that's gone when it comes to preparing and planning for the citadel expansion. I personally think that that is a very good choice, because that was something that was very, very complex to get together to start producing. And so yeah, that's, in my opinion, it may be weird, but that was like the most positive news that I've had out of everything that's been happening in the last week or so. Of course, we are here for the market, and we will jump right in here with plex at 115. 115, there we go. And I added the skill extractors and the skill injectors here. So all of these will basically become the pilot services. So plex are down to pretty much 1.2 billion, 1208. And you can see the pressure right here. I think that this is a two-way pressure. We can see the huge volumes here that are decreasing. So all the people that have been dumping their stocks in order to get Aurum, or just to get in on the skill extractor craze at the time, at least some of that will still be around on the market. And as a consequence of that, there should be a bit more supply available than there normally is, and so that should put some pressure on the price. But CCP is going really crazy with the sales as well. So we've got sales on plex packages, we get Aurum sales, all of that is still going on. CCP wants to keep all of this in check. I think they're just basically going for volumes rather than high prices at the moment. They're really pushing that very hard, and it is putting pressure on the plex prices here. 1208 is actually just above the line right here, so it's a serious pullback already. We'll see how long all of this is going to maintain. Personally, I think that once the plex sales and Aurum sales are over, then we'll see plex start to increase again. Now, it is true that everything above 1.25 was probably a good time to sell. So last week was probably a really good time to sell, but my personal horizon is the expansion. I think there's going to be some big movements between now and the actual expansion, and so as a result I can afford to be patient, and missing the boat here on the profit from this uptick here I don't think is that big of a deal personally. The trading certificate, of course, mirroring plex very closely, went up to 1.25 billion and moving down here as well. One data point above 1.3. That is, of course, quite an expensive multiple pilot trading certificates. We can see the increase in volume here as well, not as drastic as what we saw with plexes. So this, I think, if you have plex sales and you've got this much bigger sharp increase in volumes compared to the trading certificates, some of them will have been converted to the trading certificates, trying to get a little bit of an edge from the higher prices there as well. But I think it also means that not everything has been purchased, and a lot actually came out of the game from people that had been hoarding plex when it comes to this volume spike right here. So I think that it just takes some time for the market to go through all of that, and so that is why it's adding to the pressure on these items. The body resculpt staying pretty much flat at 220 million. Sorry, can't do that right now, Luke Toir. I'm recording. So 220 million, staying really flat. You do see the increase in volume. I think it's just such a small market that whoever wanted a body resculpt basically decided to buy that one. through Plex, through the Aurum store, but no one actually speculated heavily on the resculpt certificate, so that one didn't go up or down in price at the moment, managing to maintain quite nicely. All right, here come the new and interesting one. We won't see much on the charts, except of course that the volumes are decreasing. We can see the huge volumes right here at launch, indicating quite a popular feature that CCP just introduced. Prices going down as well, so they are selling for 290 million, let's say on average at the moment. This is still going to be decently volatile at first, but just look at the number of extractors still available here. I think a lot of people cashed out their Aurum stocks that are still in the wallets there. Which I think is a normal reaction, but it is of course going to put some pressure on the market price of the skill extractors, pushing that one probably down below the actual Aurum price for the extractors, just because a lot of people want to cash out on those. Pretty small margin, 276 for the buyers here. So it is interesting. One prediction from If Prosper definitely came out here. I expected this to immediately start increasing in price as well. But no, the availability is much bigger than what is actually needed in the market at the moment. And so we actually have decreasing prices for the extractors. Let's see what the injectors are doing. 622, 606, not as high as the top. I think the top was like 685, something like that for a day or so. But there is some pressure on this as well. Of course, it's a normal pattern for any new item. Just look at the availability of the skill injectors. This clearly indicates that not only have there been plentiful extractors that have been brought to the market, but plentiful skill points as well. A lot of people have drained all of the alts, everything that they wanted to get rid of, and are just basically willing to trade SP for ISK, which to me is a little bit strange, because I'm actually decently proud of the SP that I've gathered myself. It's an indication of my support for EVE Online and for the game. I've been subscribed that long, but a lot of people said, no, I'm all about efficiency, and if I don't use those skill points, I might as well trade them for something more useful like ISK or anything else that I want to buy from the market. It is the power of the sandbox, of course. What will probably put pressure on the price of skill injectors to go down are SP farms at this point. People that just have characters with +5 implants farm the SP, and every time they have 500,000 available, so 5.5 million SP, they'll just extract them and bring them to the market. The force that's going to increase the price of skill injectors is going to be general inflation, I think. Anything that happens there is just going to increase the amount of money needed for these skill injectors. But I'm a bit surprised. I'm a bit surprised that these are going down, that they cost 620 million. It's an okay price, but this is doable. This is a goal you can shoot for even as a new player. And so far I must say that the feature seems very popular, very successful, and the sandbox is taking care of a lot of the problems just by showing that there's actually a lot of supply for SP at the moment, way more I would say than the market is willing to absorb at any price. So the demand for added SP is not that big, it's not that huge. You'll have a few big whales that want to be like to have the highest number of SP on a single character and things like that, but in general people seem to understand that there's a limit to useful SP at any given time in any given ship type or fleet doctrine, and so they're not going completely crazy over this feature either. So a lot of the initial hype has probably been the optimization of existing skill point pools, and it's going to be interesting to see if there is continued pressure because people are making more SP than is actually needed by the player base, especially the older player base. This could end up making the skill injectors decently affordable and accessible to new players as well. So it's an angle that I hadn't thought about, but seeing the pressure here, seeing the volumes here, I think it's still a possible scenario, and it shows that as long as you follow the sandbox rules, things can still go either way. Really interesting stuff in my book. Next up, let's take a look at some minerals. 930. Obviously, this first category is going to take a little bit more time from now on, but it's a really interesting item, to be honest. It could be a very strong indicator for the health of EVE Online as well. So let's jump in on the minerals here. Tritanium, serious pressure on that one, 620. So we can see that tritanium is actually moving to the lowest range here of 620, which it's been moving in for several months now, with one exception where it broke out towards 660. The volumes here, 13 million, 103 million, 688 million. You can see quite a few orders less than 24 hours old, including several more above a billion. We still have decent amount here, 1.2 billion, 500 million, things like that. But some pressure has been seen on the tritanium market, and I did listen to Yves Prosper, and one of his analysis on this I think rings very true. This could be people dumping tritanium stocks in order to maybe buy a couple of plex and then move in on the skill extractor, skill injector market. So I think a bit of that could be here, some dumping of stocks, of holdings in tritanium, because, well, 640, if you look at the chart, on a 6-month chart, you're definitely still selling at a decently high point, especially if you sold right here just below 640. So it's definitely a possibility. Next up here, we've got pyrite. Over 6 months, not a good result, from 1170 down to 1110, but managing to hold on here. So I would say that pyrite is probably finding its floor just above 11 ISK, which could be okay. And let's see if supply demand does indicate that. So supply 200 million here, but that's a bit older already. So we've got 327 million, then we get 70, 24, 36, something like that. On the buyers, we've got 100 million, 100 million. 100 million, but we're already in older orders. So there is still more supply than demand that I can see here in pyrite, which is dangerous for the price. The question is, will pyrite find a bottom here? Above 11 ISK? Will we break this? Then we could actually go below 11 ISK, and then we could go a lot lower all of a sudden. Then 10.9 right here at the start 6 months ago could actually still be possible, I think. So I think it's a dangerous situation for pyrite, especially if more people decide to also dump their stocks, just like in tritanium, now that they're seeing that that one is going down. It's possible. Next up, we've got Mexalon. Clearly went below 60 ISK for its slow descent. This is not a very good sign. And it's staying below that, so the buyers are at 58.31, but that's just a small order. Let's say 59.30, just below 60 ISK, and that's for the sellers, and the buyers are at 57.31. New supply, well, still half a page. Probably some 50 million units on the buyer side here, 60 million, 26 million, but there are no major outliers. People aren't buying hundreds of millions of Mexalon anymore, and so this is much more balanced, and unfortunately it's balancing out below 60 ISK, which means that Mexalon will not be able to maintain the price, and the new floor is probably set right here. But any major supply push here could actually push the price of Mexalon down quite significantly. I think we could see volatility come back in the Mexalon market if anything major happens there. So it's a dangerous situation. I feel like Mexalon is just hanging on, trying to hang on, but it could definitely drop along with all of the other minerals, high-sec minerals, which I think are in a danger to do so. And then next up, we've got Isogen. Went to 100 ISK, low point for the 6 months. Big volume increase here all of a sudden. That's definitely notable. And then an increase in price. So 106, 107, for 108 actually for the sellers, above 100 for the buyers. 108 is around here on the chart. So I think someone made a major investment in Isogen at that point. Just straight up buying everything below 100 ISK or something like that. Or very close to that, everything below 110, 108, 107, something like that, just definitely happened by that big volume spike. Personally, I think it could be a good move, but you have to be slightly careful, because I'm seeing pressure on all of the high-sec minerals, and if barriers are broken in the other minerals like tritanium, if we break 620, look out below. Pyrite, if we again break 11.10 and then break 11 ISK, look out below, because once you're below some of these round prices, the psychology of the market can really turn around. People can decide to take whatever little profit they have left. And then we've got Mixelon here teetering, trying to hold on just below 60 ISK. I don't like this situation. And so for Isogen, the move up here is purely speculative. And if the pressure is on, it could be very bad for that investor, to be honest. Moving on here to Noxium, I saw this in Eve Prosper as well. After reaching a new low of 460, a similar thing happened. Big move up here. Someone invested in Noxium, driving the price back towards 480 ISK for the sellers, buyers at 473. So I again think that this is a speculative move. The surprising part here is that you don't need that much volume for Noxium to bring the price up, so there's just not that much on the market, I guess. At the moment, because of the extremely low prices, people just aren't trying to sell that in any massive volumes. But yeah, I see this just as with Isogen, that someone decided to buy on a 6-month low point here, which could be good, but again, it could be pretty bad as well. From the perspective that maybe a lot of players don't know about Citadel yet, or that much about Citadel yet, this could be a good investment because minerals could increase in price due to the Citadels, the fax auxiliary, force auxiliary, new capital ships and things like that. But I still feel that this is a pretty risky move, especially considering that the mineral cost in the Citadels is actually not the biggest part of the actual cost. It's more PI stuff. So understandable, but slightly risky in my book. Next up, we've got Zydrine. That one was going up, crawling out of a slump with a bottom at 900 ISK. That would have been a good investment looking back at it when you're able to sell it close to 1200 at this point. But who would have guessed that with all the momentum that Isogen had from 1600 going all the way down to 900 ISK? That was like a really wild ride, and throughout all of this we maintained overproduction. So this move back up here is actually a little bit of a surprise for me. Would have been a great opportunity. Personally, I didn't make my move because I still have some stocks of these goods left that I bought earlier on, which of course, looking back at it, I bought them a bit too expensively, but I need it for my Citadel, so I'm not going to sell to try and take a profit or anything like that at this point. Megasite is slowly starting to move in that same direction. Megasite is now selling for 1258 and Zydrine is selling for 1193. So Megasite would probably have been the better move because that one actually increased quite substantially and passed Zydrine once again. So last week we had this completely crazy situation where Zydrine cost more than Megasite. We'd never seen that before, but Megasite overtook Zydrine. It's still very close, but at least we've normalized here. And on the last week, you could have probably made a really nice profit on Megasite. Looking back at it, it is something that I should have seen coming. It's only logical that this is not a complete breaking of the trend, that Megasite is more expensive, more valuable than Zydrine, and so the move up here in Zydrine should have been expected, considering what in Megasite, I'm sorry, should have been expected considering what Zydrine had been doing. And then next up we have Morphite, which is going down here at the tail end. So good that I checked this week. 10.6 thousand. Still not that bad. 10.8 for the sellers, 10.3 for the buyers. So they are trying to push the price down. Volumes decently increased in like a few days of last week. And then the price goes down. So I actually think that there's some dumping happening here as well in Morphite. And to be honest, it could be the exact same story as what has maybe happened in Tritanium, is that people had Morphite. It's really been a decent mineral to hold on to in the last few weeks compared to anything else coming from Nullsec. And as a result, if anyone wanted to cash in on mineral stocks, Morphite would probably have been a good idea to do so, and so that could be why we're seeing this pressure in the price. So Morphite just became a bit more cheap, and I don't really know if it's a good idea to make a move on this, but it could be. It's up to you to decide. I think it's too risky for me personally, considering all the other pressure that we're still seeing in the mineral market, but it's definitely a low point for 6 months and thus could be decent to invest in. All right, that's it for the minerals. 1935. Let's see if we can see some trends in Tech 1 chips. I don't really expect it. Here's the Armageddon dropping a little bit to 212, but its trading range definitely seems to be 210 to 215, something like that. And a few more Armageddons being brought to the market. At least that's good news. We've got a few more sellers coming in here at around 215 million for an Armageddon. It's good to at least see a bit of production happening here in the Armageddon market for me personally. But we're still trading at a pretty high range for 6 months. Next up, we've got the Caracal, slight jump up to 11.8, but you can see that it's very short-lived. It's already going back down, and so the Caracal is finding a new trade range. This is still in line with diminished volatility in the Tech 1 market, so I'm still quite okay with that. Availability of Caracals, well, not that great anymore. So if an alliance would make a move here, they wouldn't have the volumes they need. They could push the price really high up, but I think all they need is a bit of patience, and there's probably going to be more Caracals moving into the market pretty quickly. Here's Dominix moving back down below 200 million on decent supply. So there's still new Dominixes being brought in, 22 of them in the last 24 hours, putting some pressure on the price. And is volatility lowering for the Dominix? It's hard to say, but a 195 to 215 trade range is probably okay as well. Next up here we've got the Drake. That's really nice to see, honestly, if you're looking for more stability. We did have an outlier spike, but just look at the reaction, very, very sharply back down here, and then actually breaking 53 million, breaking the long-term bottom for the Drakes here, showing that this unusual increase in price has probably responded in too aggressive supply being brought in. Look at that, 10, 15, 39, 9 here again. So you have a lot of Drakes on the market, which should help stabilize the price of Drakes. And we actually have a bit of an overreaction, a bit of a counter push here, where we actually broke the medium on our way back down. I think that this is a really good sign for industrial potential and potentially more stability in the Tech 1 market. It's anecdotal though, it's only one chip of course. Next up, the Mauler, that looks really stable, just above 11 million, so there's probably not much to say here except look at the availability, which is not great, but well, it's alright. These 70 right here should help a little bit. Next up here we've got the Myrmidon, very similar situation here. So we saw that we were slowly going to decrease our volatility, then we had a spike up, but the counter reaction here has just been completely crazy, and we're going down to 51 million, low point for 6 months, 52 million for the sellers, 50 million for the buyers, and look at the nice volumes available here. Very good sign. It used to be that all of them had price spikes up, empty market, things like that. It's been a long time since we've actually seen an oversupply situation. And yeah, let's hope that everything can start to even out a little bit, and that will come into a more stable Tech 1 market. Personally, I prefer that because I think it's slightly better for the game. Especially for new players, but of course cheap Myrmidons at the moment, that's not too bad either. Next up here we've got the Oracle. That's quite okay, used to be pretty damn volatile, but it's trading in the 80 to 85 million range at the moment. This is an okay chart if you look at some of these volume spikes and then the limited move here. And again here a slight overproduction happening as well, then this feels quite okay for a decently stable Oracle. The worrying part is that there are not that many of them on the market. I mean, it's still okay in volumes, if people can bring volumes like that to the market, but yeah, it's just not enough at the moment. Any buyout of Oracles due to a big fleet could push this quite a lot higher. So production of these at the moment could be a good idea, even if you expect a major Gnostic alliance to at some point try out another Oracle fleet, wait for a higher price, then you make your move on that. It would be understandable. but it would still be in line with squashing any increases in price quite quickly. So next up here we've got the Raven actually going up towards 195, looks like. Yeah, 196 for the sellers, 185 for the buyers, so decently large margin here. Really good supply as well, so I guess that the price went up, but the chart hasn't even caught up to the price, and the volumes are already coming in here less than a day ago. So you can clearly see that this is going to be just a sharp shoot up and then a sharp shoot back down. And considering these volumes, we could be in for some overproduction, but that would mean that they would still need to be rolling in at this point, and they may not if people pay somewhat attention to the available volumes on the market. Next up here we've got the Stabber showing some nice stability above 11 million ISK. Again, for cruisers over 6 months, some inflation. This could actually be in line with normal expectations. A very good chart to show the decrease in volatility here, with the tops decreasing and then the bottoms actually slowly settling towards 11 million. That looks quite okay. Decent availability on the market as well. Pretty good one. Next up here we've got a Tornado. That's not looking too good. So everything below 100 million has been bought out. Big sharp move up here. This is going to be a really good test for next week and maybe the week after that, because Tornado is decently big to produce, so it could take some more time for the market to actually fill this gap. But the Tornado is your money maker at the moment, right? If you have them lying around, if you can produce them and sell them close to 100 million, that's bound to be a really good price. And so the Oracle is well, at the threat of something similar happening. If an alliance is willing to spend everything below 90 million, they just buy out the Oracle market, and then it's off to the races. And it just happened to the Tornado. So there is still some volatility, but we'll have to see how quickly the market can make a move back down, how quickly they can restock this market. And if they can do this decently quickly, then I think it could still be a good sign as well. So it's an interesting test, this one. Next up here we get the Typhoon. We can see a very sharp increase, but also decrease in the price here once again. Increased volumes and availability on the market has pretty much exploded, with 55 of them coming in as the latest order at 180 million, below that even. So we could actually see again here overproduction, oversaturation, oversupply start to take over, and we could actually break the trend on the way down, potentially. I think next week could be really interesting for some of these Minotaur ships to be an indicator here. And then we've got the Vexor nicely trading in the 11.5 to 12 million range, despite a big volume spike right here. That is what I find really interesting. You still have really good availability, you have a big volume spike, and you still have a stable price. So yeah, we're still seeing some good indicators, a few tests as well for more Tech 1 production and more stable Tech 1 market. So the next few weeks could actually be really interesting here. Very nice stuff. Next up, Tech 2 market, 27.30. Let's see if anything is happening here. The Basilisk actually slowing down its descent just below 195. So again, this is right in between the peak and the bottom. So this is just not good either way. I don't think you want to sell anymore. I don't think you want to buy anymore. But yeah, the Tech 2 market just basically needs some time to recuperate from these increases in price. Cerberus double spike. So that's actually not bad if you can still sell them. You know, if you've been late to the party and you've managed to buy them, let's say below 185, you can still sell them for 196 million, something like that. 185, 196. Actually, it's not that great anymore. So the pressure is on. You were just a little bit too late to sell them above 200 million for a decent profit. And we'll have to wait for a new opportunity, honestly. Cerberus, you could still sell, but you're actually just too late. Next up here, we've got the Guardian edging up to 150. So it's actually at a decently high price for 6 months. You could still try to sell if you have some that you bought at 130, but who still has those? I don't think a lot of people have those. And so this is again not the right time to be trading in these. Here we've got the Hound. That was of course an amazing opportunity. You could have bought them for 17 and you could have easily sold them above 25 million. Really nice profit margin to be taken here. Of course, we're moving back down after something like that. Decent volumes. We're below 20 million on the seller side. which is still 3 million on a 17 million purchase. Not too bad to sell, but of course quite a bit too late for the real opportunity and way too early to buy. I think that this is all still on its way down substantially. Next up here we get the Ishtar, which had also reached a 6-month high last week. That was really good, but of course we are dropping back down. Still, we're nowhere near the bottom. So the Tech 2 market, except the Manticore here making a move. All right, really interesting to see the Manticore move up to 32 million. You could have bought these for close to 20 million. They're selling for, yeah, definitely. You can sell them for 32 million like hotcakes at the moment. That's a 50% profit on anything that you bought close to 20 million. And it was not that long ago that you had this opportunity. I always felt the Manticore is risky because it's a bigger investment early on. The bottoms for like the Hound was much clearer for a purchase opportunity, but not bad. 50% profits. I would definitely like that in less than a month. So the Manticore, if you have those and if you actually bought those, then it's a really good time to sell. That's a big spike up, a great opportunity to take some trade money right there. Because of course, as we've seen here with the Hound, the reaction is going to be quite swift as well, but a delayed move on the Manticore. Really interesting pattern to see here, that the Manticore took a few more weeks and then actually responded just like all of the other stealth bombers. Here's the Nemesis chart, actually moving in tandem with the Manticore. And so you could have bought these Nemesis stealth bombers for 17 million and you can now sell them really easily for 25 million, and that would be 8 million profit on that, another 50%. Really pretty amazing stuff happening here. Incredible opportunity if you actually bought some of these. And just look at that chart. That's just crazy, showing the volatility in the Tech 2 market, showing the opportunities. Nemesis, Manticore, if you have those, it's the time to sell, take some profits. Here is the Oneros. Triple spike to 175 million over 6 months. Not bad in the volatility department. Of course, we still have a ways to go to get close to 140, something like that, for a bottom. So this one is in transition, I would say. Here's the Purifier. 24 million. Not bad if you bought them for like 17 million once again. So sell opportunity. People are buying stealth bombers. Maybe alliances are preparing for a stealth bomber war or something like that. Maybe alliances have, it is possible, just thinking about this now, that alliances have calculated that stealth bombers could actually be the easiest, most cost-effective way to get to the needed DPS to take out some citadels or something like that, or the needed maneuverability for all the expected weapons and things like that. So maybe Nullstick alliances could be preparing some stealth bomber fleets for some reasons, and Citadel could be one of those. But pretty interesting to see these. You've got a few very good sell opportunities here. Scimitar working on another increase in price, pretty much empty. They're selling for 155 million. Of course, it's been a while since you managed to buy them for 120. So this is for people that are really late to the party. You could still sell them. But if you're looking to invest in anything, that's probably not where you want to go. And then we get the Vengeance also increasing price up to 23.5 million. So it was a good opportunity, but the stepping up here, again, assault frigates, just not really my preferred route at the moment. I'm not sure. They're just not that in vogue. I don't think they're that big of a part of the meta at the moment compared to like the tactical destroyers. And so I feel it's really risky. Just look at the volumes on these compared to the Nemesis, twice the volumes really easily. And so I feel this is way too risky, honestly. You may be stuck with Vengeances that you just can't sell for any profit in a long time, in my opinion. So okay, that's the Tech 2 markets. A couple good sell opportunities in stealth bombers. Moving on to the Tech 3 markets, 3340. Actually, well, we still have 40 minutes, so I'll be okay, but we need to not waste too much time. So here's the Confessor, actually going down a little bit. below 60 million, so we should have decent supply. Yep, 57 million, 58, something like that. Really good supply here. So the confessor, there is some pressure on this one, and it's probably going to stabilize like around the 55 million mark. Something like that can be expected. New supply, quite a bit, honestly. Ooh, really a lot, honestly. So this is, yeah, Tech tree production moving in on the confessor market, decreasing the price. A big buyout could happen, but you need really big wallets to actually make a move on the confessor here. Here's the Hecate, also stabilizing just above 55 million. Supply looking decently good. Supply less than a day old looking really good as well. That's quite surprising. So the Hecate also looking to stabilize unless something really drastic happens. Here's the Jackdaw. That's pretty interesting. I think we saw that it could possibly go up last week, but it's been squashed quite quickly. Tried to go up to 65 million, but we're back down towards 55 million. So the new supply should be huge. And yeah, less than a day old, a full front page, really big numbers. 2 days ago, we have even more of them coming in here. So Jackdaw, well supplied market, 55 million, something like that. Looking like it could stabilize. Then let's just move straight in on the Zweppel here, also moving to 55 million. What are the volumes looking like? Really not bad. Oh my god, we've not seen that in such a long time. 26, 17, 50, 13, 84, and these are top 6 orders. That's just crazy. People are dumping their Tech 3 ships, it looks like, at least their tactical destroyers here. So those are all decreasing in price, stabilizing, and have big volumes on the market. So it's going to be really hard to cause major spikes in these. I would be really surprised. So stability, at least in the tactical destroyer market, I think it's in the cards. I think some of these cruisers were under threat as well for maybe going up quite substantially. The Legion had a big spike up to 220. The pressure is on. We're now at 180. What are the volumes looking like? Really good as well, with again decent numbers coming in, less than a day old, but we're not seeing 20, 30, 40 legions either. So this is okay, but it's still primed to possibly go back up if big legion demand moves in all of a sudden. Let's take a look at the Loki, also going down to 170, and supply. Yeah, full front page, 12, well no, half a front page, so not that big, honestly. The cruisers are making these moves on much lower volumes. That's really interesting. These are definitely going down, of course, but this could slowly be bought out. We could have slight stable periods, then end up with just not enough Lokis on the market and move back up. So this is really interesting. Next up here we've got the Proteus, also going down to 180, back up to 190, but trading in that range at the moment, and less than a day old. Honestly, not that many, and there is decent supply, so you need a really big wallet to bring the Proteus up substantially. But yeah, up to 200 million, that's actually doable. So interesting stuff happening here in the cruiser market as well, completely different from the destroyers. And next up here we've got the Tengu settling at 190 million, 197.5 for the sellers, 185 for the buyers. Availability is quite alright, but new volumes actually 10, 19, 26. This is going to put some pressure on the Tengu price to normalize towards Proteus and Loki Legion prices, 180, something like that. But I'm not seeing that huge volume change in the ships being brought in the cruiser market, so these could still be primed for volatility. But when it comes to these destroyers, there's just really quite a big availability at the moment, and these could be in for a more stable period. Interesting stuff, how there is difference between the destroyers and the cruisers to be spotted here at the moment. Be careful, of course, if you want to speculate on the Tech 3 market. I would stick to cruisers at the moment, personally. Alright, moving on to the extra materials, 3830. And I have one request which I'm going to honor, but before that, strontium, I have to check that, because this move right here happened. So strontium moved from 600 ISK on average, let's say, to almost 1,000 ISK for the sellers, 850 for the buyers. The big story here, of course, is that while the CCP announced that they were not going to do the special combined fuel block that would be needed for citadels, they still want strontium to be in demand, and as a result they said that strontium is going to become a part of the materials needed to produce all the fuel blocks. So that's why this increase in price happened here. The question is, will there really be such an increase in demand because of that? I think possibly, because, well, fuel blocks are used continuously, whereas there are uses for strontium that are more time specific, like the shields in the bosses and things like that. So I don't think it's out of line to expect an increase in demand. The volume spike here is really big though, which indicates a lot of speculation as well. And so I think 1,000 ISK could be which is like a 40% increase in price, could be quite a bit too much. I think this increase in price here could also have been due to the announcement of those special fuel blocks, which I think also needed strontium. And so as a result, this is probably an overreaction, moving up to 1,000 ISK. I think we'll move back down from this, but a slight increase in price due to a bigger demand, a bigger use, a bigger sink of strontium when that change hits is actually in the cards. I do think that, but this is just a little bit too much, just like with some of the PI stuff. I think that this is over speculated by quite a bit. And the request was for pirate faction ships. So that's interesting. It's a pretty broad topic, but maybe before that I'll just quickly give me my expectation. Take to market I think is really good for speculation, because you have decent volumes and you have really big spikes of 10, 20, 30% happening in a matter of days and weeks. I think for the faction pirate faction ships, that you're more banking on a trend. So I do think that you can get really good profits out of that, but over a longer period of time I think those evolve much more slowly. And that on the downside, of course, if you gamble on the wrong ship that is no longer in the meta, you could be stuck with real losses for quite a long time. I think this is way more risky, but we'll definitely check it out. I think that basically these are not used and lost that much. These are very specific ships that people only tend to use in fights that they can win, and as a result I don't think that you have the big complete buyout of the market volatility, loss of huge fleets volatility. And so that's why I think it's much more of a ship that trends with the meta of EVE Online. So let's maybe start with some frigates, some of the small ones. So we've got faction, pirate faction, and I'll just quickly go over the chart here. And I think here you can see for the Astero, we had a bottom at below 68 million and a top at 78 million, but it's really all there is to be seen over the 6-month chart. And after increasing in price to 78 million, so if you bought here, like let's say at 70 million, you had an opportunity up until December. Then by January, about a month later, sure, you have a decent profit of around 10%. Keep in mind, this is just a bit over 10%. And now we're slowly going back down on a trend that there are fewer Asteros being flown at the moment. So this is really interesting. You've got an increased volume here. Oh, maybe one factor could be the Uphill Consortium events there, where, well, something like an Astero was just perfect to try and get those research components. Increased volume, this started to decrease here again. So I think we'll see the Astero back at 70 million very quickly. But yeah, I think the real pirate faction freeze is what was asked for. So let's see the Cruer here. Nice spike up to 68 million. Not bad, but they're currently trading at 44 million. So it could be a good time to buy Cruers. I'm not saying it's not, but just look at the trend here, how long it took it from a previous bottom of 50 million up to 68 million. We're talking 2.5 months, and then now another 2.5 months to reach this bottom. This is a 5-month move, 4 or 5 month move. Very risky, very difficult to actually make any trade money on this. This is definitely something that's trend related, very slow. So of course if you bought them at 50 and you could have sold them close to like 65, something like that, really decent trade right there. If you can buy them now at 44, it's bound to be a decent trade, but it's a risky one because you don't know how many months you'll have to wait until you can actually sell these. Here's the Daredevil chart. As you can see, decently stable period here, spike up to 64, but we're back just in normal trade range. This is a volume move. This is actually decently stable, I would say. Next up here, we've got the Dramiel. One short move up to 49, but now just a slow trend back down. So we're trading back at the 44 million range, in between the bottom and the top. Would you make a move on that? I don't think so. And this seems like a really big gamble to make for what is this, 20% profit, one opportunity in 6 months, very stable the rest of the time. So I feel like this is really risky. Here's the Garmer, started at 74, dived down to 58, moved back up to 72, and now he's on a pretty sharp decline again. If you're close to 60 million or something like that, where are the buyers at? Yeah, below 60 million. Okay, this could be a decent move, but again, really decently stable period right here, decently stable and downtrending period right here. How long will you have to wait to be able to sell them for, if you buy them at 60 for 70 million, something like that, where you have a decent trade? Well, right here, slight opportunity, and here, very long stable period. It could be a long time, so this is why you don't see triple spikes, quadruple spikes in many of these chips just yet. And these are the smallest ones. So here's the succubus, obviously trend up, and now a very slow trend back down towards 50 million. And then finally here we've got the worm. Ouch, this is the danger that I was talking about. The worm somehow becoming less popular, maybe nerfed a bit, maybe something changed in the meta. And yeah, you could have bought them for like 70 million, something like that. It looked like it could be decently stable here, and now they're just costing 50 million. If you want an investment opportunity, this looks like a really good one. But again, you could be waiting the exact opposite of this chart, 6 months of slow increases in price until you can actually unload those for a good profit. And then that's, of course, how do you time a market like this? Any bad news when it comes to the weapon systems or the ships themselves is just really bad news for your investment, and you have a very long horizon to wait for. So let's also check some cruisers. Let's move up a bit. Pirate faction cruisers. Here is the Ashimu. Again, yeah, decently trend up, but you could have sold them for 150 for a while. One spike, 130 to 150 to 130, not that bad. One speculative spike right here to be doing, but now we are back on a trend back down. So a lot of them seem to have a top close to around December and are now slowly coming back down from that. But really big trade opportunities, I'm not seeing that many. Here's the Cinnaball one, actually trading at a bottom for 6 months. If you actually want to fly some Cinnaballs, I think they're pretty affordable at the moment. But again, this is a very slow trend up here from 150 to 175. Decently slow bottom here as well. Definitely a sustained downtrend for like 2-3 months. So it's an interesting market, but I feel it's pretty risky. Here's the Ortrus. That would have been pretty decent actually. If you'd seen the 6-month bottom at the Ortrus, close to 200 million, you could have sold them for 280 within 2-3 weeks. That was not bad. Of course, the Ortrus is the newest one, a very expensive faction frigate as well, but we are on our way back down. But again, it is one spottable opportunity on a 6-month chart, with here a very slow and steady decline in price over 4.5 months. Here we've got the Phantasm chart. Again, 135 to 170 is not bad. Correcting back and then moving back up to 185. Yeah, these cruisers, some opportunities could be here. Of course, now a stable period above 175 for the Phantasm means that you're nowhere near a good time to either sell or buy once again. But yeah, 2 trade opportunities starts to be pretty okay. Next up here we've got the Stratios, of course, Sisters of Eve cruiser, trading for 270 pretty much on average. Here, do I spot anything? Yeah, 260 to 290. Well, it's close to 10%, but honestly, I still feel like that's pretty risky for the amount of money that you're investing, and it's one really clear opportunity you're seeing in these 6 months. Here's the Gila. Again, that would have been your loser pick if you decided, okay, I want to invest in some faction cruisers. Why not the Gila? It's a really good one. It's an awesome faction ship. Well, it's trading at a 6-month low close to 180 million. If you bought in on any of these price points, you're in for a really bad day if you actually need the ISK at the moment. If you want to invest in Gilas expecting a change, sure, you could probably do that, but that means that you would have to expect something to again change that would make the Gila more popular all of a sudden, and that's a pretty big gamble to take. Next up, we've got the Vigilant here, decently spiky, 200 to 225 though, that's barely 10%, and here we've got that one again. That was a clear bottom at 200 million. You could have made a move on that and you would have a slight opportunity, but after that it's just meandering around the 215 million mark, then moving up here to 230. Now we're again edging back down to the 210 million mark. So there are two slight opportunities to spot here, but I still feel that this is really risky. And then we'll check the battleships as well. Yeah, 50 minutes, okay, longer one again, but it's a decent suggestion that just takes some more time. But I think most of these charts do show why I prefer the Tech 2 market for actual trades, because here again the Barghest, one trade opportunity, you could have bought at the bottom of 650 million, sold close to 900. Not bad, but that's just one slight opportunity. Now again, slow trend back down, slow trend down here. It's very difficult, I think, to time this market, and if you want trade money, you would, I think, prefer more than one good opportunity in 6 months. Next up here, we've got the Macarial, actually seeming like a bit of a not a too good a ship, because we're trading in a low range for the 6 months here. No sell opportunities to be spotted, and 440 million right on basically the average in the last 4 months or so. This isn't where you're gonna make trade money. Here's the Nestor, actually another loser, and that's another thing again that I don't really like about these. Yeah, if you pick the wrong ship, you've got on a horizon of 6 months, and then the wrong nerf happens in the game, then yeah, you've made a costly mistake. And 1 billion to 0.8 billion, a 20% haircut on the Nestors. I wouldn't like to be the one that has bought on this increase in price here, expecting something really good to happen. So yeah, no sell opportunity to be spotted, and we're actually trading at a pretty low price for the Nestors. Nightmare here, again very similar. You've got a long downtrend. You could say that 350 to 390 is a 10% opportunity, sure. Took more than a month, and now we're already heading back down. So Nightmare not doing that hot, I don't think. Rattlesnake Victory Edition, not really familiar with that ship. So let's say that one is an outlier, very unique ship right here. Here we've got the Balgorn also trading at a very low point, and so maybe this is what the viewer actually wanted to indicate, is that a lot of them are actually trading at very, very low points. And if you want a longer term investment, not something that you need to follow every week in order to actually find the right opportunity to sell, then some of these could be decent, of course. That is true. Look at the Balgorn, traded around the 400 million mark for quite a while. Now we've got a slow descent, and they're actually selling for 350 at the moment. The buy orders are at 323. If you can pick one up for 330, yeah, you've got a decently cheap Balgorn. The one thing, of course, that you don't know is when will you be able to take 10-20% profit on these Balgorns. That could be months. So that is, of course, the downside of this. But for buy opportunities, I'm definitely seeing a few of these. Here's the Rattlesnake. Again, one opportunity that took more than a month to go from 320 to 390. It's definitely not a bad move, but we've got a pretty slow trend down here again, and a slow trend down here again. I feel that this is definitely pretty risky. And here's the Vindicator, once again trading pretty lowly. You want to call 560 to 620 a trade opportunity. Well, I'd say for this one meager spike over 6 months, for active trading, I don't like these. For long-term investments, find some of these charts. And that could be good. I definitely like the Balgorn here personally. That looks like something that that is just gone off a cliff for some reason. And if at some point Balgorns come back, then this could be really good, of course. That is true. But you need a much longer horizon than in the Tech 2 market, in my opinion. Anyways, there you go. Very, very good suggestion. I actually like this one, and giving an analysis of a certain type of good and chip is, I think, pretty damn good. But this one, I think I'm right on this. You have some buy opportunities, but you're trading with a much longer horizon, and you also have a much bigger risk if you take the wrong chip. Anyways, that's it for this EVE Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.